Hi there everybody, how you doing? Welcome to another Tuesday tutorial. Today we're going to revisit a subject that has come up time and time again on my ukulele page. So I'd like to discuss it with you, and that is slide ukulele. That is right, using a using a standard ukulele with a slide. Now I have a selection of slides here, various materials. We're going to talk a little bit about the advantages of each and the disadvantages, but these are today's 3 slide ukulele tips. So 3 tips for playing slide on your standard ukulele. Now, you might notice, of course, I've showed this already once in my profile. This is my new double neck ukulele. It's a 3-string cigar box guitar and a ukulele, and it's a standard tuned ukulele, but it has the low G. Now there are advantages, I think, if you're going to use slide, to use a low G, but it is not a requirement. In fact, everything I'm going to show you how to do with the slide doesn't even touch the low G string. The low G just provides bass. So we've got 2 cameras, one set up, this view that you're seeing here, and a close-up for my right hand, so you'll be able to get a good look at what's going on, and we should be able to get something good going for you. Now, so we're going to start with a couple of basic techniques and a basic principle. The first tip is less is more. You've heard this probably time and time again. I really want to stress that the big mistake a lot of people make when they're playing slide for the first time is trying to play too much. The idea with slide is you want to use one note, not necessarily playing a whole chord, or you want to use partial strums. So you want to learn to practice, or practice to learn is a better way of saying it. You want to practice to learn to play only the notes you want. Now there's a couple different techniques. The first one is muting, and that is where you drop your hand over the strings at the bridge point and allow only the strings that you want to ring. Otherwise, you just hear this muted kind of a tone. And then you lift up my hand just slightly for the note I want to ring. That's the first technique. The other one is to drag a finger behind the slide so that you don't get ringing behind the slide, because there's an extra harmonic that is produced when you do that. That one's less important, although it is subjectively important, so it's up to you to decide. But don't try to overplay. At the beginning, what I would suggest is get yourself a basic pattern going that you're happy with, and then add one note. Something really simple like that, just a lot fewer notes. It's also important to recognize the way your ukulele works. So tip number 2 is to learn the scales for the key you're playing in. But you don't need to know all those. You just need to understand a couple of simple principles about how the ukulele works. The first one is that your ukulele is tuned G, C, E, A. That's your standard tuning. Now, your A, when you cover that 3rd fret on the A string, you've got G, C, E, C, and that's your C chord. So G, E, and C, the bottom 3 strings, is in fact a C chord. So just to play your major chords, you've got C, D, E, F, G, A, and I'm just doing that with bars. Of course, I could do that with my ukulele, with my slide. And that's all I need to do, is that covering that. Now this is useful when you're playing along with someone and you need to come up with a chord and you don't necessarily know the shape, or you got the slide on your finger so you don't have access to all the fingers. You can literally just go and grab a partial up and down the neck on those bottom 3 strings to get a major chord. So for example, a blues progression that would be C, F, and G7 without using the chord shapes could be C, F, G, and C. And that is open, 5th fret, 7th fret, back to open. If I wanted to play a C blues progression, I could do it like C, don't you want to go? And F, yes, don't you want to see? Back to my G7, F, and C. But if I didn't want to use any of the chord shapes because I got the slide on my finger and I wanted to use it, I could go, hey, don't you want to go? All I'm doing with my left hand is muting. Hey, don't you want to go? So I'm just using it to stop the strings in between. Back to that 7th fret, 5th fret, and open. I said, hey, don't you want to go? Hey, don't you want to go? Back to that same old place, that's my sweet home, Chicago. I said now 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4. Watch out there, honey child, I'm booked, I gotta go. I said, hey, don't you want to go? Same old place, Lord, that's my sweet home, Chicago. So you can see that I can use the open strings to my advantage, and all I'm doing here is I'm not playing the top string. I'm strumming across the 3 on the bottom. I'm leaving that top one out of it, and that gives me all of the chords I need for the key of C. Another shortcut, by the way, if you don't know your scales and you're trying to memorize them but you're having trouble, is any note that you fret to play a chord in a key. So if I'm playing my C, that 3rd fret on the A string, that's a note that absolutely works. We know that these 3 open strings work, so I've got all those 4 notes I can choose from. So I can do a riff that is, which really is just arpeggiating a chord, but it does work. If I play an F chord, I've got the 1st fret on the E string and the 2nd fret on the G string. So those are available to me. So now when I'm playing my progression, I also have there's a riff I could do right there, which is just 1st fret on the E string, open, 2nd fret on the G, open, and that 3rd fret ending in C. And my G7, which covers the 2nd fret on my C string, the 1st fret again on my E, and the 2nd fret on my A, gives me this. Those notes all will work as I play my blues progression. So I don't have to know my scale right off the bat. I can do a thing right in there. Go, hey, baby, don't you want to go? Hey, don't you want to go? Back to that same old place. Lord, that's my sweet home, Chicago. Now 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4. Watch out there, honey child, I'm booked, I got to go. I said, hey, don't you want to go? That same old place, Lord, sweet home, Chicago. So that's tip number 2. Learn the scales, notice the chords that you're playing and the notes that you cover, because those are available to you. Now the last tip is that slide choice, the choice of material that you use for your slide matters, but not the way you think. So right now I've got here a brass tube, a glass slide, a ceramic slide, this is a mud slide, and a chrome tube. And I wanted you to hear the difference between all of these on the same ukulele and the same amp. Now, this will change a little bit based on your tone, but it's important, the tone of your ukulele, I mean. But it's important to notice that there is a change in tone for material, but the biggest difference is your comfort level with the slide that you choose, because a big part of slide tone is just your touch on the string. So here's a brass. do the same thing with chrome. Now, a big heavy glass one. And lastly, a ceramic. Try that again, backwards, the glass now. Steel. And lastly, brass. Now, I've been playing slide for a lot of years. Started on guitar and worked on. I bought this slide here, this little brass tube, 30 years ago for $7.99. I've since bought all these other kinds of slides, many others over the years, and I always come back to my basic brass slide. And the reason I do that is not because I think it sounds significantly better than the others, but it is the one that my hand is most comfortable with, that I can control the tension and the touch on here. That isn't going to be the case for you. Now, some people will tell you that a thick wall brass slide is better, or a thin wall brass slide, or they'll tell you that glass is the only way to go, or you need the Blues Coricidin bottle, the original Coricidin bottle that everyone uses, or my gosh, only good slide players use penknives. All of these are true, and all of them are complete bunk. They don't matter. So here's what you need to know. This is the important detail that I like to impart. When you decide on a slide that you're comfortable with, you need to practice with it and get comfortable with it. And that is the only thing that matters in your choice of slide. That you are comfortable with the choice and the touch. Because you can be really gentle and have a really good, smooth steel slide. Or you can be really noisy. If that's what you want to do. Either one is a matter of your touch on it. And speaking of touch, of course, you want to be as gentle as possible while still getting good tone. Think of it like fretting your chords. You don't want to press all the way down, though, because you don't want to hear that slide note, that fret noise. You want to hear just the tone of the slide as it moves up across there. Instead of being like... So you heard all those little divisions there? That's me pressing too hard. Now, another advantage of steel and brass over something like glass or ceramic is that if you drop a glass or a ceramic slide on a hard surface, they will and can break. So be aware of that. You need to be a little more gentle with them, especially the thin-walled Coricidin bottles that I mentioned earlier. Other than that, that's it. A lot of this is practice, so you're going to want to get to know your scales because you're going to need them. You're going to want to play just a few notes, accent just a few special sounds, and then go to town, have fun, practice, get used to using the technique. Also, muting matters. You don't want to have a lot of notes ringing that you don't want. You want to kind of cover everything so it's just the slide note sticks out instead of... Hear how that didn't sound the same? That was just me strumming across all the strings. But if I mute and I just... So there it is. Have fun. Have a good Tuesday. We'll see you down the line. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into my video today. I really appreciate your attention. I wanted to give you a heads up that I start on tour the beginning of September. I'm going to be traveling through Ontario, so things should be pretty close to the way they are now for the next month. But then I head over to Australia and New Zealand for a tour in October and November, and I'm going to be all over the place. So my Patreon supporters, who I am grateful for supporting this channel, I want you guys to know that the videos will probably slow down or be intermittent in October and November. I'm going to do what I can to make sure I keep it coming for you, but I'll be traveling a lot, and I'm not necessarily going to have the time to stop and make a video for you. But I will do some random uploads of video from the road and things like that for my Patreon followers. So if you're not on my Patreon page, you're going to miss out on all that tour footage. So please follow the link down below and see if this is for you. And if it isn't, no worries about it. These videos are free because they pay for them. Thank you, guys.